Hello?
Yeah, what's up, dude?
How's it going, man? How'd you like it?
It was so good. It was so fun.
That's sick. So I'm 100% down to talk about it, but I gotta give you the obvious caveats first.
Okay.
So I can only really talk about the stuff that was playable
Yep.
and
That's
nothing
fair.
else.
That's fair.
So
Fair
if you
enough.
want to shoot the shit about design philosophy or like why we made these changes, like we can probably go into that, but only the shit that you played.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So all you people asking, why is it 30 FPS and is there rumble? You're not gonna get those answers. Um, let's see here. I could try to pull some questions from the chat.
And if you want to give me feedback on what you heard, or you want to talk about the timer thing, I'm all down. Like,
Oh, I would like to see a HUD timer. Like, I liked that there was like the visual and audio thing, but it was a bit confusing as to be like, if I'm far away from the like, let's say I go A, like sometimes we send 2A 2B, right? And if I'm at B and they plant A, like I can't see or hear it, right? So I'd like to know like how much time I have to rotate.
You can hear it. You can hear it.
You can.
Yeah, the audio is global.
Okay.
So it's 2D, it's global. You can hear it always. The idea there is like, if we give you perfect information, then down to the T, like down to the last second, you could say, oh, the diffuse is not viable. We shouldn't even try. And that like makes for like a less cool, less hype game. Like I'm sure you experienced on the floor the moments where you're like, oh shit, are we gonna get it? Are we gonna get
that
this
happened multiple times? Yeah.
That's the shit that's gonna like. Imagine that on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine the hypest, like sweatiest match you have, and that moment happening. That's why we did that.
Okay. So I understand. I understand that. Because yeah, that did happen. Like I remember Sager and I are on a diffuse, and then we get to like 95%, and then we both blow up, and we're like, "Fuck," you know. Which that was fun. Let me see. What else did we have? I think about the competitive community. Ask them that. I mean, it's all built for competitive.
Yep.
Let's see. Is there? That's not a question we can answer here. Vito says Tocom has the right idea. All right, all right. What are the times? So you arm bomb, and then how long does it take to defuse?
Oh, see, I love you because you're a competitive player and you want to know that, but it's not up to me to help you find the meta. That's on you, my friend.
Okay. Yeah, I could tell diffuses were like, it felt like 7 seconds around there. And then I started towards the end of our play, like to understand like this is done. Like there's no way I should go for this. You guys are asking questions that we can't get answers to. Oh, that's a good question. Why was this map chosen to be showcased?
All right. So this is something I can talk about. Midtown was part of this new philosophy we're carrying into D2, where we're trying to handcraft maps around modes. So Midtown was built for Countdown, and I think that was pretty obvious when you played it, right?
100%.
Very, very clear attack and defend routes, very clear flank routes. Like,
yep.
If we kind of, I don't really want to speak for it too much because Cooley is the man behind this, and his intention there is what it is, and my interpretation of it might be wrong, but as I see it, each lane features a range of play. If you're going street, that's your long range of play. That's your scout rifle. That's where you want to post up with the sniper.
Yep.
If you're going middle, that's your close range. Swap onto your hand cannon, your sidearm, your SMG. If you're going rugs, that's close to mid, right? You want to bust out your pulse rifles, your ARs, right? And what I like so much about the map, and the reason we chose this map, is that each of those lanes and each of those ranges then inform the type of abilities and the weapons you want to bring in, and then add that into the whole like team composition game. You have some really interesting stuff happening before the game,
right?
Interesting strats and interesting conversations.
Right. No, I found myself while I was playing switching weapons like all the time. So like if our strat was to make an A push on offense, I would pull out a pulse rifle because it's like way more open. Usually they're sitting back. It's like those longer ranges. And then if I was going B, it was hand cannon always.
Just cause.
And I could tell because Destiny 1, I believe, like maps weren't built for elimination trials, whatever you want to call it. Right.
Let's talk about D2.
All right, let's talk about D2. But yeah, that map definitely felt like it was built for that game type. It was good. What are the cooldowns for special abilities?
Does he mean supers?
I think he means like your nade melee and your class ability.
So again, I don't want to tell you the timers because I don't want people in min-max. And like, if you're gonna figure out the meta, it's on the community.
Right.
But we have slowed those down across the board from Destiny 1, right? Like,
yep.
Part of this is to make to prevent the thing that happened in D1. Once we try to focus on primary play where abilities were up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it was to add some clear readability and clarity to the ability sandbox. As Luke said in the opening of the keynote. He believes mastery comes from understanding, and one of those things we needed to do is make the possibility space for any one encounter much smaller. So
right.
the things you were thinking about any given second were minimalized. That way you can start to master those things that are in that combat space or in that possibility space.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And yeah, the longer cooldowns, I just want to say, felt way better. And we were actually playing around our cooldowns. So like if we're on offense, we'd actually like slow play off the start, wait for our cooldowns, and then go in and make a push. Let's see.
I see a lot of this in your chat, so I'm just going to answer it now.
Okay.
Why did we get rid of Titan and Warlock skating? If you've noticed across the board, again, this goes to everything Luke said about clarity and readability of encounters. All the vertical movement, all the horizontal movement, the speed of which that was happening, the way you could transition from encounter bubble to encounter bubble. With Titan and Warlock skating, that wasn't consistent across the board, and it was actually really jarring for most players. Like, it wasn't really that fun to track a Titan skater.
No.
And most of the time, you never really expected him to get from point A to point B that fast.
Yeah.
So we wanted to slow that down a bit to give you more intention, especially when you're flanking routes, right, in Countdown. Can you imagine, like, you've played Countdown enough to know, if you were able to Titan skate from B to A, the choice of lane wouldn't matter that much.
Right. No, it's way better. And then it also, like, Titan skating is something I've said, if there was ever to be a capture the flag game type, like, it would be nothing but Titan skating if that existed. Like, just people flying across the map. What was the idea behind changing Stryker to a roaming super? Can you talk about that?
So loosely, because I wasn't I didn't make it, so I don't want to speak too much for it. But part of the reason we did that was to give it a little bit more clarity and readability in combat, right? Like, he still has the panic activation, but because it's smaller, you can kind of like predict it. Like, you can already kind of predict the Titan who's going for the fist. And so now that you have 4, that gives the possibility to like reduce each of them, make them smaller, have more aggressive fall off, stuff like that, so that when you see a Juggernaut, you have the capability of knowing, oh shit, the fist is coming at me. Or if you make the cool play to back out of it, like, you have, like, because we made a state base, we were able to make it a little less potent, and that means there's more potentials for counterplay, more potentials for super on super combat happening more often, right? Like, one of the things that we did that I don't think too many people picked up on was that supers do less damage to other supers. So if you see a Titan coming at you with fist, and you pop a Dawnblade, one fist isn't going to kill you anymore. It actually becomes more like a demigod battle.
Right. I believe I had like a Dawnblade versus Dawnblade fight at one point, and I believe it was 2 swords, like 2 sword throws to kill.
Yeah, if you're fighting another super, yeah, I think it's 1 just for normals.
Yeah, normal people is just 1 hit. And then the idea of adding So you can see, if you look at the top of the HUD, you can see who has what super. I personally like that change because I can see like, okay, we have 2 supers, they have 1. Like, let's use one of ours, right? And then we can still be tied in the amount of supers we have. And then you can also be expecting it. So I can see that someone has what's the Titan super called? Is it Fist of Havoc?
The Fist of Havoc.
Yeah. So I can see that, and I see a Titan running at me at A, and I know, oh shit, I need to drop this guy. And then I know that they're going for that super. So I personally like that. And in Destiny 1, you can still, it's the same type of thing. You can see it. Just, it's a lot easier now, and I like that.
Yeah, the thing that we find in playtests that are super useful is now it's actually really easy to know if your teammate gets a pick like across the map or something, you know what super's out and which one you don't have to worry about anymore.
Can you talk about the addition of SMGs?
I can't really speak to that. That was, the weapons guys, John Weissnewski and Greg. They're awesome. I mean, I can't really talk about the philosophies outside of them, but if you look at the weapon archetypes, there's a pretty clear intention of range, right? Like all the rifles behave at like mid to long. The hand cannon's kind of the blending, the gray zone, right? It's the mid-ish, mid to close.
Yep.
And then you have SMG sidearm, which is the close range, and all those ranges then influence the time to kill, which I don't know if you notice we've changed across the board.
Yeah, which I think is a lot better. I love SMGs, by the way. They're so fun. And then, well, you work directly on the power weapon ammo, right?
Show did.
And then talk about the idea behind that.
Sure. Power ammo went through some revisions on 2, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about whatever the previous revisions are. But power ammo, the idea there was to get the weapons that everyone loved from D2. People love sniping, people love shotgunning, fusion rifling, rocketing, the works. Get those hype moments and put them in condensed, like very readable, understandable power plays, right? To draw reference from something would be like Halo. When you picked up a shotgun in Halo, that was your chance to go on a montage, right? Like that was your chance to make a fucking play that was awesome. And so when we went to this new system, we wanted to have something with that level of understandability and readability. Hold on. Sorry about that. So yeah, we wanted it to be very clear where it was going to be, and then very clear who picked up what. If you notice now, when somebody pulls a crate, it tells you what they picked up and where they picked it up, more importantly.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that, and I love that. Because all of a sudden, we're in a, 3v1, and then it says, the person that's won picks up a power weapon, and it's a rocket launcher, and we're just like, oh, okay, we need to, play this a little safe. I also had a play where I was able to pick up, sniper ammo and get a 1v2 clutch. It felt really good. And I like that it's not shared, so, not everyone, you don't have 4 players all of a sudden with rocket launchers and then just wipe the round, It was nice.
Yeah, and one of the design goals we had, and that, thankfully leadership agreed with us on, was we wanted to inject this level, we wanted to inject emotion into every one of the mechanics or every one of the modes in D2 PvP, and so heavy ammo crates, one of those emotions is that big, risk reward, that big payout for that huge risk. And that informed a lot of the things, down to the interact time, the resetting interact when you take damage, the fact that it's on a wall so you can't look at combat while you're pulling it.
Yep.
That influenced a bunch of things, and yeah. The reason we did that is so that it's readable, and it's also a risk, and it's also this big payout.
Yep. And you also on I'm blanking on the map name again. Was it
Midtown?
Midtown. There we go. The one that's by B. Actually, both of them, really. We kept having these things in our matches where both teams would be playing for the power weapon, and we would actually have to slay out 1 or 2 people before even considering going for it, right? Otherwise, you're just going to feed a kill. So it forced, fights and forced teams to push for it, right? And it just makes it faster paced, which I like a lot.
Yep. That was 100% the point, right? Like we wanted you to earn those weapons before you pulled them. And the location stuff, if you notice, we bake that everywhere. It's actually on the objectives as well. We're trying to do this thing where if you play a mode, right, you play countdown, and you see oh, the bomb's at Rugs, or the bomb's at Low Street, or somebody picked up heavy at Low Street and stuff like that. You start to learn the callouts that when you go to another mode, or when you go you play another mode, you have this common language between players. So when you call out, oh, there's a guy at Low Street, they know what you're talking about.
Yep.
It's not something that the Reddit made up. It's not something that the community came up, and there's 5 different ways to say it. It's all in the game. Yeah,
so I actually didn't notice this while I was playing, but I was told later that there are call-outs underneath the radar as you move around the map, which is awesome. So yeah, that's cool. Could you talk about the reasoning behind going 4v4?
Yeah, actually, absolutely. It all comes down to our goal, right, of making a more consistent game, a more readable game, ultimately a more competitive game. When we felt that 6v6 was ultimately too chaotic, right? Like 6v6 was great for a lot of reasons, but when we had these goals of readability and understandability, we needed to pare it down a bit. And there was this moment where we could have gone 3v3 across the board, but I think some of us felt that 3v3 was a little too small. And with 4s, you can do some really interesting things, and this is, you can see this really play out in Countdown. If you were playing Countdown with 3s, there's not a huge possibility space of what you can do when you push a lane, right? You send 2 or 1, or you overload all 3, right? That's about it. But with 4s, you have a little bit more variables to play with, right? You have a little bit more strategy injected in there. You essentially have the 3 people who fill the essential roles, and then you have a wild card.
Right.
And that was really interesting to us.
No, I like it a lot more in 4s. Because also like, we were able to make flanks. Like, I remember when we were playing against Ninja's team, they loved making all 4 A pushes, and then it worked for them a few times. And then what we ended up doing was we would send 2 on a flank and then 2 holding A, and then as they all overextend, well, they're getting pinched by 2 people. Whereas if it was 3s, it'd be like they could just attack the weak side, the guy that's 1, and then it'd be over. So yeah, I actually like that a lot. Is it only 4v4 though? I believe that is what they said. Yeah, it's 4v4.
So this is one of those things where it's like I can't really talk about it, but as we said on the stage, across the board, we are 4v4 for Crucible.
There we go. And you can't talk about this either, but FFA Rumble. I mean, you can't talk about it.
Wasn't at the show, not talking about it.
Exactly.
People don't know about
and people keep asking about it. So guys, if you didn't see it at the reveal, it's not being talked about. Yeah, you guys keep asking questions that can't be answered.
So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to know how you felt, because like we changed, like a couple of us were nervous with some of the changes, right? Because we did a big swath of stuff. Like Melee's 3-hit now.
Yeah,
don't one-shot kill.
I love it.
Like bullets to kill for hand cannon, scouts, and pulses all went up.
Yeah, so right now in it was so refreshing to play, because right now in Destiny 1, it's just a one-hit kill ability fest, whereas in Destiny 2, no ability outside of your super, and the power weapon is a one-hit. So it was really refreshing to be like, okay, I can throw my fusion grenade, I can stick someone, but unless I do extra damage with my weapon, it's not going to kill. And I can't just jump in there and double punch someone, like it's going to have to be 3. And in that time, they'll be able to put some shots, put 1 melee, and then I look stupid. So it felt like there's more of a skill gap. I really liked the 2 primary, because like I could throw on a pulse and a hand cannon. So if I'm on defense, I don't know if they're going A, where I like to have a rifle for those longer, like the lane, or if they go B, I like to have a hand cannon because it's close range, like that medium close range, and it just felt right. It felt good.
You'll find, I mean, obviously you didn't have time enough, but once you play Midtown Countdown enough, you start to learn all the lines of sight. You start like it changes so much. Like your 5th, 6th, 10th game, where you like. What I like to do personally is I like to grab a scout rifle and I go along, A Street on attack, and I'll hop onto one of those little rooftops, just chilling out. And I'll try to get a line down into A. And if they're not there in the first 5-10 seconds, you can actually turn right and get vantage right into middle. And so hopefully, what we usually do is we send one middle to try to contest the double door to double door fight.
Yep. And
by then, we try to get somebody to bait out a push. Like, try to take damage intentionally, bait out a push, and then because I have line onto mid, I can get 2 or 3 shots in them, and now they're at a disadvantage because we can collapse after that.
Yep. That's something that I felt is that teamwork and those type of strategies actually mattered so much more, and like timing your abilities together, and all of it just felt like it had a bigger skill gap, and the team with the better teamwork won pretty much every time. And abilities and supers didn't really like change the round too much. Like, obviously they were good, but there was rounds where like 2 supers would be dropped from a team and they would end up losing. And I noticed, I believe, right? I think you'll be able to confirm this for me, that the supers aren't as tanky. Like, Hammer in Destiny 1 is like a tank, and I didn't feel like either of the 3 supers that were played were really that strong.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you specifics, but in an effort to rebalance the game and give you more flavors and more capabilities to counterplay, supers do have less damage resistance, and part of that is a function of energy weapons and energy ability or elemental damage doing more damage to supers, right? Like if you see a super coming and you have the weapon, pull it out because it's gonna matter.
Yep. No, yeah, I would see, like, okay, golden gun. The other team has a golden gun. Let me pull out a solar weapon, and then I'll be able to contest it better. Or, if it was the arc, or, et cetera, et cetera. What's the quickest way to get to September? You find out, tell me.
On me.
Ask why 30. We're not going to any of that.
Nope.
Why were the older subclasses replaced with new ones? I mean, I can answer that. Balance.
I'm not gonna really touch that, but nope.
Yeah. No, I will say that it is pretty obvious that it was just better for balance. Is there Sparrow flying? It wasn't at the
wasn't at the event, not talking about it.
Yep. Any hope to keep PvP from affecting PvE going forward? I mean, I don't think that can be talked about.
Nope.
And yeah, you guys keep your questions where they can actually be answered. Why are sidearms still so powerful? I did not feel like sidearms were powerful. Like,
so that's an interesting thing, and I've seen this feedback come across. And sidearms and SMGs have a fall-off wall now. Like, there's straight up a point where you will, if the enemy's far enough out, where you're just tickling them. But the second they enter that wall, you're going to peel people.
Yep. And they're effective in their range. Where in that range, I'd rather use a submachine gun personally.
To each their own.
What, you like the sidearm?
You can do some really interesting things in Countdown around corners with Angel of Light and a sidearm.
Okay. I mean, you played a lot more than me. I played like 8 to 10 games.
I feel you.
But I will say SMG is super fun, and I feel like it kind of replaces that like shotgun for most people in a way. That like close range weapon to pull out. Can we talk about the the like skill trees?
I can try.
So I noticed in the build we played, so you know how like on the right side of the skill tree there's like the 4 abilities at the top right, like a diamond. You know what I'm talking about? That's where like Angel of Light was and your class specific ability. The Titan and the Hunter actually didn't have them fully unlocked. I don't know if that was like intentional. And then at the bottom right of the skill tree, it wasn't unlocked on any of the classes.
Yeah, so for the reveal, we only gave you 1 path. So that's pretty much all I can say about that design. If you want to talk about some of the perks or like how they're balanced, sure, we can talk about that.
I noticed lightning nades are a lot better. So what happens is you throw it against the wall, and instead of an instant burst of damage, it's kind of like when a trip mine activates and the lights go from like being very wide to a narrow thing, and then it pulses like your standard lightning nade.
That was Josh Hamrick being a god. He gave it a fuse time. That's what we call it internally. And that was kind of to restore some of that like really like grenades have this cool meta game where you throw it and there's this tension between the throw and the detonation where you're like, fuck, did I place that right? Is he gonna walk into it? Like that's the mini game of guessing where they're gonna move or placing it correctly. And lightning nades in D1 didn't have that, right? They were just like fucking throw and it's done. It is gonna happen. Whereas now, like, I don't know if you saw Luminosity's gameplay, but he had this really great placed lightning grenade on low street, and because it had a fuse time, a bunch of people walked into where it was going to be and got nailed.
No, I noticed that. Like, I played like 1 game on Titan, but the game I did play, like, there's definitely some plays like that where it's like throw it and then predict that they're gonna walk into it, and then boom, it hits, and it felt really good. We're not talking about FPS, guys.
You know, I've heard your comments on the AR, and I just want to interject something that the AR has a lot more range than I think people realize now. Again, you haven't played a lot, I understand. Next time you get your hands on it,
give the AR a try.
Or were you trying to aim
fair
for the
try?
head of the body?
I mean, kind of both. But you got to remember, I'm playing against Ninja with Noel, Dr.
And
Lupo,
you were on PC, right?
And we were playing PC, so like everyone's hitting like crazy strafes, and so hitting perfect shots wasn't the easiest. Plus, I'm playing on a mouse and a mouse pad I'm not used to on a DPI that I didn't know.
Did you play PS4 at all at the event?
I played 2 games. My first 2 games were on PS4, and then we all ended up at the PC area, and it was like done from there.
Fair enough.
But I would assume that the meta would be slightly different between PC and PS4.
It is 100% safe to assume the meta is going to be different.
Yep. Let's see. I tried... I mean, I tried everything. The grenade launcher I didn't really get to try, because I died like almost immediately after picking up the ammo. Could you talk about the grenade launcher? Because I have like no knowledge or information on that.
The grenade launcher that was in the reveal is this is a pretty cool one. It's got high rate of fire. It detonates on impact. It doesn't. So grenade launchers don't actually one hit unless you beam them. Straight up dead on, you get the impact. If you do not get the impact, they're 2 hit.
Okay.
And you only get, I believe, you only get 6 grenades. So
you get 6. Okay. And is that all in the mag or some in reserve?
So we actually retuned our ammo system this time around. In Destiny 1, all of our ammo is done on percentages, and it never knew which weapon was loading it. Straight up just said, I'm going to give you 25% of your mag, and I don't care if you're a rocket launcher or a sniper or whatever. You're getting 25%. Fucking go. In D2, we've actually changed that so that we know, hey, you've picked up a grenade launcher, and we can say not just percentages, but we can also say fixed number of bullets or number of clips. So things like grenade launchers will change depending on the clip size. and then there's like we can actually upper limit it. So if we said we can give you 2 clips and your clip size was 4, and that would mean 8 grenades, we can actually say give you 2 clips, but if it hits past 6, only give you 6.
Okay.
So it's a lot better, a lot easier to balance this time around.
Does it kind of perform like the Halo Reach grenade launcher, where you could pull the trigger, hold it down, and then let it go to time the detonation? Or is it just
grenade launcher
press the trigger?
In the reveal event was press the trigger, rapid rate of fire, detonation on impact.
Okay.
Late shipment again. Shortages, always some excuse.
I noticed on PC, in the settings, there was like support for controller.
I can't talk about that.
Can't talk about that. All right.
If it's PvP and balance related, I can do it. Anything else, no thanks.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so what can I call those abilities? Like the Warlock AoE heal, the Titan shield. Is that just class specific ability?
So, the bucket we tend to call the class ability, but each of them have their own name. I believe the Titan one is Barricade. The Warlock has Rift, and the Hunter has Dodge.
Okay. There's not like a just general name like Grenade or Melee. Someone needs to come up with one. Class ability.
Yeah,
okay.
It's the class specific ability, right? Like.
Okay. I feel like that's such a mouthful. I need to
just call it Barricade or.
Yeah, I just over time I'll learn those names. So Rift is the Warlock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we found ourselves. We would make a push on offense, and you could actually interact with the objective through the barricade. And so we would drop it right in front or right behind the bomb, and you could plant the bomb through the barricade. And behind the barricade, we would put the Warlock heal on top of the Warlock damage boost, and then it was just like super OP. But then what people started doing towards the end of our games was, at the beginning, no one shot the barricade, right? Because as you shoot that Titan barricade, it breaks, and it actually breaks pretty easily. But the stacking of those AoE things obviously was super strong. And I assume we'll be tuned down?
So tell me why you feel like it was strong.
Just because everyone in the AoE would have essentially Blessing and Weapons of Light.
So it's actually not that strong. The Empower you get in PvP is useful, but it's really only useful in team firing unless you have a really low rate of fire weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the heal actually never out heals any damage you can do. So if someone's keeping consistent shots, it can't out heal it.
Right.
That's why when you were telling me like, oh, it's pretty strong, I'm like, is it? Are you sure?
It's decently strong. It's pretty strong.
And barricades, yeah. If you team fire a barricade, if you hit it with energy weapons, it gets peeled faster. So like,
oh yeah,
I think that's people not understanding that.
Towards the end of our games, like as our meta in the short time we had to play like changed, it was just like a Titan would drop a barricade and it would just get dropped, like team shotted instantly.
It's fair to say though, like everything you saw in the reveal, the game's still in development, like things are still happening, like. And this is more like I see your chat freaking out a bit. Like, just don't assume that this is the meta that will be there day one.
Yeah, I assume there will be some slight changes. I also noticed with the barricade. So if it's I ran into an enemy one from like I guess the opposite side, and you get like this slowdown ability, right? And then I wasn't sure if I do that. Like, let's say you're standing in front of me, right? You put a barricade down. I walk through the barricade and then turn around. Does it do that same slow effect? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so if you're colliding with the barricade, it it slows you, it damages you a bit, and it suppresses your sprint. So like the idea is, this guy's put up a wall. If you're really gonna challenge through his wall, you have to risk it, and it's
You really have to risk it. Yeah, it pretty much got me killed. I was like, what the hell just happened? It doesn't do that for your teammates though, right? That like. Yeah. You can just easily go through it.
Yeah, sorry, it doesn't slow you. Your own one doesn't slow you. It's an enemy one.
The enemy ones that slow you. Okay. I didn't notice this. Just because I didn't have enough time, but was there a difference in like color of the abilities between enemy and friendly?
Some grenades will actually be outlined red if they're enemy. Things like the lightning procs, the lightning spike that you saw, that actually will be outlined red or blue if it's enemy or ally. Braces will be tinted red or blue if they're enemy or ally. Rifts will be red or blue if they're enemy or ally. Sorry, I meant barricades.
God. That's so good. Because I know Destiny 1, like Night Stalker Smoke, it's impossible to tell the difference. And so that's good to hear. I like that a lot.
So I actually have to bail.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
But there was something someone in the chat asked about footsteps. And that is something that was in this build that maybe you picked up on, but we actually changed the PvP audio mix with D2. It has its own unique audio mix separate from PvE, and that means things like supers, footsteps, movement modes, grenades, all that stuff is actually going to sound louder for enemies and allies. The idea is if you're wearing headphones, like you can hear people coming on the flank, you know exactly when, like I'm pretty sure you knew every time a Dawnblade was popped.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not only just from audio and all my teammates dying, but from the HUD at the top. You know, you can see that they have it, right?
Yep.
So, that's amazing. Yo, can we get some hearts in the chat for Tocom? You know, appreciate you stepping in and answering some questions.
Dude, I love this shit, and I love PvP, and I'm just glad. Like, I'm glad we got to make you guys happy, because you know, you're the reason we do this stuff. So
right,
thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, man. It was a lot of fun, and just launch the beta soon, please.
It's not me.
I'm dying. It hasn't even been 12 hours, and I want to play so bad already. All right, well, take it easy, man. Later. Well, that was fucking cool. Tocom's a really cool guy, really nice guy. And he cares about the community a lot. And he cares about feedback and making it a good experience for all. So I like that a lot. That was some good... Who's Tocom? That was the senior multiplayer designer at Bungie. Tocom. He was a fucking awesome dude. We don't know about private matches. I don't know shit about dedicated servers. Why do you guys keep asking? I don't know. I don't know. The build we played, you were in orbit. You clicked the crucible icon, which it looked like a placeholder. You got to remember, this is a very limited build. And then there was the game type right there. You would search. And obviously, there's like no one in that environment, and you match the person.